Well, good Monday morning, everyone. And yeah, I'm actually making one of the recording errors on Zoom, and I've got a window behind me, but I hope the blinds making things work. Anyways, we're in First Kings, but I want to talk about Saturday first. Again, making a shift to these devotionals. We're going to go from 5 devotionals, Monday through Friday, walking through the Bible as we've been doing, and then giving a different kind of exercise or activity or reflection or something for the weekend. Maybe Saturday would be the day to do it. Maybe it'll be Sunday, but just something different on the weekend. And so as I'm recording right now, I have no idea what Mike might have said about last weekend. So maybe it's the same thing. Maybe this will be different. Either way, I think it'll be good. Here's what I want to encourage you to do. I want to encourage you to take half an hour. Saturday, Sunday could be outside, could be by yourself, could be maybe doing this with your spouse or with your family. But take half an hour just to spend time thanking God. Spend time talking with him, praising him, thinking about just the amazing God that he is. Maybe it's just talking with him about his love, his power, his glory, where you've seen him at work in your life, in your past. Just spending time just really focusing on who God is. Maybe it's kind of taking a list of names of God. You can find names of these online, or you can email me and I can send you a list if that's just would be of help. But something just to focus on who God is, and just spend about 30 minutes doing that. Maybe walking outside, if weather permitting, if that's the best way to do it. Maybe it's just kind of a quiet space. Again, doing it with your spouse together and just having that conversation, just focusing on the goodness and the nature of God. And then just doing some reflection on what that brings to you. And was it encouraging? Were there struggles? Were there questions? And then again, whatever, talk with someone about that. Just encourage you to do that this weekend. Again, we're into First Kings, just started in, and this chapter, First Kings 3, is probably a couple of the best known stories of Solomon's life. Part of the narrative of the Old Testament, remember, is that we're still waiting to read of the one who's going to restore Eden for humanity. Remember that Genesis 3:15, the one who's going to come and crush the head of the serpent. And it wasn't David. He was flawed. And so here in the narrative, maybe it's going to be Solomon. But as we see and as we'll read through the ones of this week, there's lots of high points. This week is kind of like the great things about Solomon, but intermixed are these mixed signals. For example, in this chapter, he marries a daughter of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And again, Egypt was a place of, we read in the scripture, of slavery, of bondage. But we're also going to see this week that he builds the temple, and there's all sorts of Eden imagery, that union of heaven and earth. Now, Solomon, as a new king, the text says he loved God. He sought to honor God. He shows in his worship. He knows God is faithful and loving. God offers to Solomon, what do you want? How amazing is that? I don't know. I think all of us would love to have the opportunity, God coming to say, what can I give you? What can I do for you? And Solomon, as a young man, now, how young was he? Now remember, David reigned for 40 years. Bathsheba was, at some point kind of in the middle of that reign. And so, he's a young man. He's not a teenager. But as a young man, he shows wisdom by asking for wisdom. He's like, I want to be a good king. I want to be a good ruler. I want to rule with justice at the center of my reign. And I'm going to need wisdom to do that, God. Solomon asked for a gift that would bless others. Catch that? Wisdom is not something that was going to, primarily, first benefit Solomon. He asked for wisdom so he would be a good king of God's people. And so God goes, wow, that's great, that's the best thing you could have asked for. I think it's the heart that God is responding to. You're caring about others. So I'm going to give you all these things for yourself as well. And again, there's a part where when we're looking at ourselves, I think when we're evaluating, I say the character of people, it's, do they have a heart for others first? Those are the people that are the safest to have gifts for themselves. Though again, as we'll read, it's always a danger whenever we start focusing on ourselves first and foremost. The heart of wisdom and the heart of justice that Solomon shows in the next episode, again, quite famous. Two prostitutes appear before the king seeking justice. Both of them had given birth, had infants. One of the infants had died in the night. The one whose infant died went and took the living child, replaced them. And then it was a she said, and they come before the king seeking justice. Now, again, there's all sorts of things here that are amazing to consider, and we need to kind of put them into this context of the time. I mean, prostitution was condemned in Israelite society. However, the kind of the idea in the law is that there's also, they were recognized also as victims of their society. For example, often women became prostitutes within Israel because whether it was slavery or widows, and they felt they had no other recourse to try to provide for their children. And so that's not to, that's an overgeneralization in some ways as to the reasons why, but the institution of prostitution was condemned, but prostitutes themselves, there was compassion and care that was to be given to them within the law. And these prostitutes, they come before the king. Right? Solomon was the highest recourse for justice, for the widow or the orphan, the helpless or the poor. I mean, the king was there to help make sure justice happened to the least within society. And as king, time was made in his schedule for the least in the nation. And I've heard criticism of Solomon's decision here, what if the one called their bluff, or, all those different things. And again, it's like, you can't Monday morning quarterback what's going on here. Solomon's in the room. He would have seen the body language of these women. He would have, there's a conversation that would have happened here. He would have heard these women, and he's going, okay, I see what's going on here. I see a path. Again, wisdom is taking good knowledge and being able to apply it to specific situations. And so he sees this is the way in this situation. Would his path here work for every situation? No. Solomon knew that. I think people who criticize this should know that. But he discerns the path that reveals the heart of the mother and the heart of the one who lost her child, and that bitterness and sorrow was driving her heart, not love of the child. And so, it's never always as easy as it appears here. I don't think it was as easy for Solomon. There would have been some, conversation here. But again, wisdom here is discerning how to bring justice for the sake of those involved. And here's the thing, that this kind of correlation came to me as I was thinking that the cross is talked about by Paul as wisdom in 1 Corinthians 1. We follow a God who gave up his rights for the sake of others. That's God's wise way to live. Wisdom is something where we look to bless and benefit others, even as, yes, it may help us, but it's looking for how do we love God and love others. And that's the beginning of wisdom. Fear of the Lord, where he says, love God and love others. Hope that gives you something to reflect on today. I know it's been a little long. My apologies. We'll cut this down in the days ahead. But again, wanted to talk about that weekend activity. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you. May the Lord be gracious to you. And today, would you know his peace? God bless.